Hollywood is notorious for having these ideas of people that are dishonest or grifters or scammers who are looking to either take your money or take your ideas. And a lot of people are worried, is that just a stereotype or is that true? And while this might not be the spicy, dramatic, and super heightened version of those things, I have a real story for you in 2026 of how a production company was not operating honestly, and I may have accidentally protected my script and my film by just being a little cautious. Hey, my name is Noelle. I am a screenwriter, a poet, and an actress. I live in Los Angeles. I am also in the early days of my career as a producer. I've produced a lot of short form content, and over the past couple of years, have been working on developing my first feature film, which is based off a script that I wrote, which is a coming of age story. And in the pursuits of doing that, I kind of got wrapped into something that I luckily was able to spot early on, but still ended up being a very roller coaster of an experience with a production company. Well, I don't know all of the information because obviously all of this happened, and I'm not out to get any individuals, even the ones involved in this. It's more just kind of here are the red flags that I saw in the situation that happened, and just kind of advice for anyone who is concerned about these things and some of the more covert, docile ways that they hide in plain sight based off of my experience. One of those big ones is first and foremost, always be aware and cautious of where you meet people who work in the entertainment industry. Everybody in LA works in the entertainment industry in one way or another. Your access to them is going to be kind of gatekept unless you have a really good way of getting close to people. So, my very first red flag with this production company and the contact that I had there was actually where and how I met them. I met them through a networking workshop within LA. Granted, it's a more selective group, it's more filtered, but nonetheless, it is a networking workshop that allows for kind of all levels of experience. And when something's open to kind of all levels, it means that you can get a lot of people who are at the beginnings of their career. And people at the beginnings of the career can either be people, that just don't have resources, or it can be people that aren't always wanting to approach the industry with ethical or honest business practice. So always move carefully. I learned this lesson the hard way with this same film when I didn't listen to my gut about that with a previous production company and realized that the producer had lied to basically inflating their credits in order to try to get involved in the project because of some of the people that I had attached at the time to the film. So that was a hard lesson to learn, but one that has stuck with me always, which is, really, really make sure that you have confirmation about people's credits. Like you can talk to people who have worked with them and just do your due diligence and let time reveal who these people are, which is how I approached this situation in 2026. I took my time. A very interesting thing was this kind of interaction and meeting was super fun. I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't looking to be involved in anything. I honestly was just interested in hearing from someone who is actively involved in indie producing and producing stories that I was very interested in and very much felt aligned with as far as the stories that they were telling. However, from there, things took an interesting turn when we were just talking about projects, and they expressed interest in taking a meeting with me to discuss one of their features that were in development and also to just kind of get more information and look over the pitch for my feature. So, went into all of this. However, again, because of how we met, I had gotten a very interesting kind of look at this person as an individual. This was someone who very much was like, always talking about their wealth, the generational wealth that they got, the wealth within their marriage and household, and all of these things. So it was just a very interesting situation. And they were very flaunty and very showy about their affluent life. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, this also seems kind of weird, but I'm going to roll with it. Maybe it's new money versus old money. Again, a lot of people in the film industry don't flaunt it. A lot of people in the film industry uh, slow roll a lot of these things. So again, I was just kind of like cautious. But again, I was like, okay, I'll take a meeting. I'll take a meeting. I'm flattered you want a meeting. So in the time between meeting and taking a meeting, um, meeting at the workshop and taking a meeting to discuss projects, there had been, I became aware that for the project they wanted to meet with me on, that they were going through a process of meeting with screenwriters and additional support for the project, but very much creative roles. And so I became aware that they were taking stories and samples and a whole bunch of different things from writers. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Again, not completely unheard of. Interesting process to do it, interesting way to source creativity. Would not, as a producer, be my first step just because there's a lot of can of worms that open when you do an open writer's call because of IP and IP meaning like intellectual property, all these things. So I was kind of like, okay, interesting choice there. As this is happening, I am not able to get actual contact information for the person I'm meeting with. I am only allowed to receive the assistant's information. If I want to send my script and my stories, it must be to the assistant, which for me was another red flag because anytime I've gotten to that point, I'm supposed to CC the assistant so that they're aware that the material was sent. But anytime I've ever, does not matter who it is, under what conditions I'm sending my scripts, if I'm sending to someone, it's to their official business email, or if it's as a mentor to mentee, blah, 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 it'll be to their personal email. I have never been told that my directive is to send it solely to the assistant and the assistant will forward it on. That was another big, like, okay, that's a little bit weird. That's not really starting things off on a personal level. I'm not allowed to have your contact, not allowed any of this. And from there, I became more and more skeptical because, again, there's just a lot of talk about their money, their resources, the talent they're going out for. And I was like, okay, well, who's your dream casting director? How are you making these asks? A lot of the normal questions, yeah, not like that. I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, that's so incredible. Like I'm so curious, like what's your casting director's thoughts on this? Who are they thinking of for, supporting all these things? Um, I never offer any information that is precious, but I had like, advice on who's good, who's what, and shared that. But then left that meeting very much being told that not only would they love to consider and look at my feature film, but they would love to discuss and potentially offer me a position on the film that we met about. So I get an email from the assistant about my contract, going over my contract, and they were like, do you want anything added? And so I did a very normal follow up being like, no, I'm super good with anything else. I guess the only thing that comes to mind is just what the actual credit on the film will be and how that'll be placed and the credit scroll regarding the associate producer position. And then I never heard back. I followed up with the assistant, never heard back. I got the feeling that the assistant either was never actually a person or that the assistant was terminated. I never sent my script, never sent my stuff because at this point I got a pretty big red flag over the communication stopping and was not going to send any of my sensitive material. At this time, to my knowledge, no one who had submitted to work with them has heard anything. It has been complete radio silence of them just sitting on all this material. Now, the person that I met, I have their social media, and I've seen a very interesting swap. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, they started showing and expressing on social media that they are not the financially affluent people that they were presenting as, and that the reality of their life is very hard. They are struggling. Nothing is going their way. They do not have the investors or any of the resources that they claimed at the workshop that I met them at, or in the meeting that I had, or any of that. It doesn't actually even sound like their company was formally formed, like they had any employees. And they have since this time been going on a very, very active social media campaign to receive financial support and aid due to a medical crisis. I do believe the medical crisis is 100% real. I do 100% believe they need aid and support. But what's been very interesting is repeatedly on social media, they've been really attacking their followers and attacking people who've been commenting, being like, you guys aren't actually giving money. You're not supporting. We are being abandoned. We are being let go. Like everyone is avoiding us. And it's very hard because a couple of people that I know who know them, who work with them, have been very open about the fact that the difference of who we met at the workshop versus who we're seeing on social media has been extremely jarring. And that while we all want to, help out anyone during hard times, it's very, very, very hard to do that when professionally our trust has been so deeply broken by this company and by these people. And anyone who was involved with them in any way where there were conversations of, like me, receiving employment from them, or there were even people who had considered connecting them with financial entities, have been extremely scared off by just what feels like two completely different realities and two completely different attitudes that we are seeing in this situation, and the priorities, and also the biggest disrespect to all of the writers and other people who submitted to be a part of this process or who applied for jobs with this company, to in no way be told anything, for me to not have no way to contact them to follow up, that I was supposed to have sent my script and absolutely nothing, and then to find out that every single thing I was told about the company was in fact not true and was dishonest. And then to see this very bitter, very distraught experience played out on social media with no acknowledgement to any of us about the time that we had wasted, our intellectual or creative talents being ignored, and just the deep lack of professionalism in all of this has been really, really jarring. Um, so that's an interesting version of this because, again, luckily, no creative to my knowledge was really harmed other than time wasted and other than just getting very concerned. But the biggest lesson here is this was a no harm, no foul situation, because really it was just a lot of BS that ended up not feeling good and fracturing a lot of trust, and, making myself and others feel like these are not people we would ever really take a meeting with ever again, because we just don't feel like there was any level of transparency or honesty in the previous situation, or any honesty about their actual business practices or abilities. But the biggest lesson here is remembering like the access and to take time and not to be slow about sending your script, but to always vet people and vet people before you sign a contract, and making sure to follow up about the contract and not be afraid to test the waters of negotiation and see what happens, and to clock anything that seems out of the ordinary. And if you're not sure if something is or isn't normal, there are so many fantastic resources like Reddit, Stage 32. There are podcasts upon podcasts, especially like the Not Your Daddy's Film podcast, all these things that are really devoted to the nitty gritty of how business deals and moves in the film industry happens. And you can ask other filmmakers and creatives, is this normal? One of the reasons that I moved very slow with this was I have a lot of people around me who also agreed and concurred that this was kind of a weird way to handle things. Why would I send my script just to the assistant when I had already had a personal one-on-one meeting, when there had been a personal discussion about the pitch that didn't seem normal or respectful? There's a lot and a lot of arguments that have taken place around this about the legality of them accepting all of these samples as a production company or as individuals, if they are or are not an actual legal production company. So there's like all of those things, and it's important to trust both your intuition and your knowledge when you hear this. And if something seems abnormal or it feels like you're jumping ahead or it's too easy, that it sounds tough and it's not to like get imposter syndrome. But it's important to always, double check everything and make sure that, you are getting lucky, versus it's someone who sees an easy target. And as a young woman, and as truly just because of being a woman, period, you tend to be more targeted because they know that other people aren't taking meetings with you or appreciating your value, your resume, or your skill set, which is why I love so many communities in this entertainment industry that are constantly uplifting women. Um, but even in the case of other scams that I've had, even women will try to scam other women and take advantage of us because they know that we're being overlooked by our male peers or male superiors for jobs. So that's the food for thought. Again, I have like an icky feeling. I don't have hard feelings. Again, I genuinely believe these people are going through a tough time. I just think that it's very sad to see how they're treating the people that they attempted to take advantage of at this time, rather than using this as an opportunity to make amends and come clean and act with the best foot forward. Um, but dishonesty is difficult and shameful, especially when it's correlated to financial resources. But anyway, hopefully this was helpful. I know I appreciate talking about it and feeling like maybe other people can learn from the situation. Because I know I've learned a lot from these type of things. Again, I was prepared for the situation because of other people being transparent about the times they've been in these situations. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm Noelle, and if you want to learn more about me, you can hit subscribe, which I hate saying. That feels interesting. I'm new to YouTube, so that's not my norm. But you can also check out my link tree to learn more about me on my website and about my books and my career as a writer. And yeah, thank you so much.